The voice of our registration in order to make a little podcast in.
Oh yes, she told me. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Right. So everybody can hear the things that will come out. So
hopefully some sensible things. We'll see.
Hopefully. If not, the word is already quite crazy. So I don't think that something else will be a big damage for the word. So here with us, Yoram, we have some of our curatores group. Curatores group is the group that every year we build up for Mittelyoung sector because we have this program on the middle of May this year, from the 18th to 21st of May, only for under 30 artists. And the feature of this program is that I am not the programmer of Mittelyoung. There is a group of students or people who already ended the academies, and they look at all the proposals and they choose them. So they already programmed Mittelyoung 2023, and then after it, they will choose 3 of the 9 performances of the Mittelyoung 2023 to come again in Mittelfest. They are very different. They are not all musicians. Some of them are musicians, some of them are actors, some of them are dancers, some of them are just students and of other things. So it's very wide range kind of group. So a brief introduction about Yoram. Yoram Ish Hurwitz is a pianist and artistic director, in particular of Dell'Oranjewoud Festival, that will be in Mittelfest next July, with a program that it's a very Mittelyoung program, like an idea, because it will be a very wide range concert for the kind of musical compositions and composers also, that is tonsetters. It will be it's a project of 20 different musicians from the Netherlands who have composed many pieces of this general concert in very different kind of styles. So it's one ensemble for a real journey through what are the pieces of music nowadays and how can be mashed up, mixed up all together in our perception and in our kind of way of feeling the music. But we won't talk about tonsetto right now. This is not the focus of the meeting. It's about Yoram and his job as artistic director, in particular about Dell'Oranjewoud Festival. All the time with Dutch pronunciations is a problem. I will improve myself.
Yeah. Yes. Wood is woud. That's the Dutch pronunciation, but it means the same, so it's fine.
I'm very, very bad, but the good thing that the next edition will be from the 26th to 29th of May, if you want to go to Netherlands, and I recommend you. I will be in Netherlands, so I can come. I'm very happy.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Because last year my assistant went, I could not, but I'm so happy that I can this time.
Great.
So, first question, Yoram. It's a conversation, and then if anybody of you wants to make question, it's open. But tell us something about you in 3 words.
Adventurer, a curious adventurer. Well, 3 words. That's well, a pianist, musician, musician. A curious,
Pianist?
adventurous musician.
Okay. Okay.
3
Okay.
words.
No, they are good, very good words, because my next question is something about it. You said musician and not pianist, but I was thinking about you're a pianist.
True.
Now I ask you why you said musician and not pianist.
That's a good question. Of course, I feel very attached to the piano, and I still play it, although not as much as I used to. But that has a lot to do with actually the answer, because I discovered that apart from my enormous love for the instrument and for music in general, I am always very energized and inspired by creating things. With the piano, I did a lot of, apart from the concerts I created also projects, and now I'm very much involved together with other artists to create also new projects, and for that I feel more a musician than a pianist, which is very, very connected to the instrument. And a musician is, of course, a pianist is a musician, but I feel very strong about music as a musician.
Okay, no, it's quite clear. In fact, what I wanted to ask you is the fact you started studying as a pianist at the conservatorium and in New York, and so you played a lot as a pianist. But at one point, you started to become an artistic director, that is close to say a musician.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious to know when it happened and how.
Again, a good question. I like you said, I did a lot of projects, and the very last project was also, as a pianist, I played many pieces, and this particular project was the Iberia cycle of Albéniz. I don't know if you know it. It's a 12-piece work by the Spanish composer Albéniz, and he wrote most of it in Nice, by the way. It's not really composed in Spain. It's very, very demanding piece technically, but it's also a wonderful, actually a fantasy, you can say, from the mind of Albéniz, how he thought that Spain in his ideal was. That's why I said he wrote it in Nice. He felt a little bit exiled. And this project I created together with other people, a movie, a film, which was part of the project on stage, and it was quite complex. And after this very demanding project, I really felt that I needed a break from the things I did, and I wanted to do something new. And so it was not a festival I started to do more chamber music, doing other things. And from that came the Chamber Music Festival. And at first I played a lot still. But generally the festival grew and grew, and I got more and more inspired. And it was a very gradual thing that happened. And so even now I still play, but it really has shifted into more creative. Well, you have this word, creative producer. I don't know if you know. Mm-hmm. And so with that, it's really, that feels very inspiring, and that's why it shifted. But I'm still playing, so I don't want to abandon it completely.
Now, it's different the position. It's different the kind of relations you have in playing. It's not like play as a soloist or as a soloist with orchestra, but it's more being in a more complex net of projects and relations.
Right. Yes, and it's more versatile, because as a pianist, especially when you play a lot solo or with orchestra, it's very monomania. You have to put a lot of effort in it, because it really demands that you practice a lot. And I'm too curious, like I said, and too adventurous to just do one thing.
Yeah. At the end of being only a soloist, it's quite could be quite a repetition or in some way.
Yeah, well, of course, that's also not really true, because if you're a really good musician, you find a lot of variation within the, you know, the simplicity of just playing.
Yeah, that's really true. It's a kind of different approach. Yeah. But in this way, when your adventure at the Oranjewoud started, and also how?
Well, it started very, very small. I mean, at that time, I felt it was a big project. But now it's like one project is as big. I mean, one project at the current festival is as big as the full full festival in the early days. But that's because it grew and grew, and it got more complex. So it started with very, very, I think 4 venues and 1 concert venue, or some of them 2, and that was it. I think there were 6 concerts, the whole festival. But it was for me, it's really, you can't imagine. But that's one way of starting things, of course, because and also it was very traditional, because I had I'm raised and educated as a traditional classical pianist. So this was my starting point. But really soon, because as you are about to discover when you're here, the venue, the landscape that we're in is very, very important and very inspiring. So very soon after I started it, already in the 2nd year, I felt we should go outside and also incorporate nature into what we do. And of course, there are many ways to do it. The most obvious one is to just create a concert outside, which is beautiful. But I think that's the most simple way. But it's more inspiring, and I'm using the word inspiring too much. It's really challenging, but also very interesting to look for ways in which nature is actually part of the artwork of the piece. And this is something I'm developing now, actually with commissions to composers that actually create a piece for a specific size, so site-specific composition. In music, it's not that common as it is, for instance, in theater, which has been developed for decades already. In music, it's still very fresh, very new, although not that new, because there's still already a lot of composers doing that. But I think there's a lot of development there. So from the one part, which is creating a beautiful concert in a beautiful surrounding, which is nice, but it's not more than a setting, to doing stuff that is really in which the nature or the landscape, and it can also be a building, actually, a site, anything that has a story or something which is which you can use as part of this whole thing, the music or the piece of art. That's a wide gap, and everything in between is possible. So the festival started very traditionally, and now it's almost too complex.
I ask you a couple of things. One is very useful for the group in order to understand better the festival, because it's relevant. And the other, I'm curious about the first edition. When it was the first edition?
2012. So
okay, but in which space?
Where or when?
Where, it was my question. But
it was in Oranjewoud. It was in Oranjewoud. And Oranjewoud consists of buildings. There's very 19th century buildings and a museum. And so we had several historical sites, plus a new museum, or a museum of modern art, which is so these were my first locations.
Very indoor and very
classic. Very indoor and very small and traditional.
But, and the second question that I think is very relevant for them is to know where the festival is now, the space now.
Well, it's still I mean, these locations still play a part, not as much because they're too small, I must say. But maybe I should explain a little bit more about the structure of the festival. But first, answering your question, it's really in the whole landscape area. It's a park landscape, and it feels like a canvas for me. You understand? So it's something that it also changes. I have to open the door one moment. Okay. So the park landscape is really a big part of it. The festival is actually consists of 4 zones or 4 program lines and 1 festival heart. The festival heart is in a place where everyone meets, and it's like the beginning and the ending of the festival. In the middle, it's like a knot where everything comes together. And from there are 4 lines, 4 zones, and the first one is called Family Zone, and it's really for families, and it's for children, and it's a festival by itself, 3 days long with a lot of things to do. And it's really fun to create things for children, I must say, as when I started that. The second program line or zone is a play zone, and it's not, I mean, play in a sense that the music and theater is playing. You play, you do a play, you play music. So the more accessible and playful concerts are found there. So it's really also very accessible for new audiences. Then we have what I call comfort zone, which is really the classical canon, which is still also, I mean, it always changes, but that's more the traditional part. And then we have, for me, the most exciting one, which is called expedition zone. And all these places, they are on the say, they have this specific location. Expedition zone can be anywhere, and it shifts all the time because it's expedition. You cannot pinpoint a certain location. And the expedition zone is really about innovative projects, location music, like I said, and things also free zone, which I think is also very important. We are very focused on plans, and we already know when we start how it will end, sort of. But they're really, I don't know the English word, where a place where you can, when anything can happen and you don't actually, I mean, it's like a real free zone. This is rare. And so we try to incorporate that as well. It's like a sandbox thing.
No, it's very interesting because the fact is that Oranjewoud is in a very, it's a very big park. It's the Royal Park, if I don't mind. And the idea that you build up a festival that is really meant to be site-specific festival, because you described us through zones, through spaces. Mm-hmm. And the idea that each space, each area is related to one way to be in relation with mm-hmm. the music.
Yeah, and nature is always there.
So, what are the features of the natures of these 4 spaces?
This is also, and what you say is completely true. But what's also true is that when you create these sections, you also want to mix them, and I think in general, I think an artist or an art form is about creating a structure, creating sections, and then break them and recreate them, and on. It's like a cycle. You create rules, you break them, you create new rules, and you break them again. So and this goes on forever. And I think that's what art is really about. But so I create these sections, but I also want all the audiences to go from one section to another and discover things if they want. And a festival, as you know, is really a place where people can discover, and and it's very, because there's a high density of things going on. It's really an opportunity for audiences to discover, but it's free, so you don't force anyone, and that's really important. You ask a question, how's the nature, or does it look like? Well, that's also interesting because this whole area is partly very, historical garden-like areas, which is nice. But there are also woods, which are more, wild. There are also some meadows, so open places. And there's an underground bunker, which is very exciting. Everyone, all the artists, I tell them they want to create a project there because it's exciting. There's a swimming pool in the hotel where we did something. We have actually, you can use anything if there's enough imagination or if there's an idea. We had a tower, for instance, Strijdbos van Rijswijk, these wonderful artists from the Netherlands as well. They did a project at the tower where they created plexiglass or synthetic boards, which created beautiful sounds, and it really felt like it came from nowhere. So all these locations are very, very different. They have their own story to tell, and I try to have a dialogue with the nature.
And another particular things that I'm very curious is you started mentioning in your festival that it's a music festival and a festival starting from classical music and then developing from them. So quite high complex roots as a festival in this sense. But you started, and I think it's very relevant, and I would like to know something more that I think it could be useful also for our curators. You started mentioning family zone, not considering family as a side festival, but starting from that. And also, if you go to your website, the family zone is the first thing that I see, not the last one.
Yeah. True.
It's the first one, not the glamour, and then maybe, okay, there's the family for the children. Okay, no, the family zone is the first one.
Yeah, you noticed well, because this is actually, this was really, it's on purpose, obviously. True. And actually before that, we have the festival heart. We start even there. And then, but that's because that's how it starts. But you're right. And I must say that all these zones, all these program lines, they have their own history. Like I said, I started very traditionally with 4 sides and just classical music, and it was fine. I mean, nothing wrong with that. And it was always there, and it stayed there. And now it's the comfort zone line. It's like a very long line from the beginning until now. So it's the oldest. The expedition zone actually started in the 2nd year because we started to go outside. We did a piece called Timber by Michael Gordon. I don't know if you know it. It's 8 wooden, how do you call it? These
pieces of wood, yeah.
Right, and they're used as percussion instruments. I think 8. And I wanted to do it in the forest because I thought then the story is round, because it started in the forest and it ends there. And we did it somewhere else in the end. But for me, this opened my and this is really crucial. As soon as it was also as if a door was opened in my mind. And I thought, okay, if this is possible, anything is possible. And you start, then the ideas come and flow. So it's really about opening up your ideas and not being afraid to try something which sounds crazy. It's always starts like that, and in the end you have to be realistic, etc. But that's the end. First you start with no boundaries. So this the 2nd expedition really started from there. Then the festival hearts was 3 years. Let me see. No, yes, 3 years after that. 3 years after we started in 2015, which is and that was the first introduction of other genres, crossover, jazz, or I mean, there's no. It's really artificial to create all these very, very strict genres. So I introduced that, and that in the end became Play Zone now. It's like the grown-up version of the Festival Heart. And Family Zone was part of the this Festival Heart in a very small area where children and the parents could do some stuff. And after a few years, I thought this can be better. This can be bigger, and it's more. I can make more of that. And as soon as I started that, and like I said, it was really exciting to learn that it's really fun creating stuff for children. I mean, maybe not for everyone, but I did like it. And now it's the first time that this part has grown up as well. And like you said, we start with it because this very year, the coming year in 2023, it's the first time that this children's area is part of the main program. Before it was, like you said, it was a side thing, very big, but not the main program. And I thought, why not? It's now, it's as equally important as all the other program lines. And that's why we start with that. It's really how it starts. Children, of course, they develop, but there are people like any audience member, and yeah, it's like a journey even.
No, I'm very happy about that because, for example, also this group of curators, they decided to program one performance of theater in Mittelyoung that is a performance also for children. So what they did is to put a performance also for children inside the general program. And as you know, in Mittelfest, I program a family section inside the general program, and I present it, yeah, all together.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's quite relevant as the position of perceiving and attending at music as part of personal education. In my personal opinion, this is relevant not for children but for parents mostly. It's
that's why it's called Family Zone.
yeah, I totally agree. It's Family Zone because the need is the education of parents, not the education of children. that's the main point, in my opinion. Yeah. And I totally agree. So I think is a very good point also for what they did as curators. They didn't have any doubt. They didn't consider the performance for children as a performance for children. They discussed it as a performance, and that's.
There are many things, not everything, because children have they're another world in the way they I mean they have the different way of looking at things. But there are a lot of things that are also which is our so-called grown-up programs, which are also interesting for children, especially in the expedition zone where it's an adventure, and children are adventurous by by nature. So there are a lot of things that they find exciting as well.
Yeah. Before going to another side of my question, I would like to know if somebody of the curator has any kind of question for Yoram and for and about Oranjewoud Festival, if you're interested to know something specific before I go on. Any question?
The good listeners. The question may come later, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, my question is more about your work as artistic director inside Oranjewoud. I would like to know something about Oranjewoud, how is organized the festival in general, and how do you work as artistic director? How you get your decisions?
That's true. Well, also that has developed throughout the years, of course. I know many festivals that have several curators within the festival, and that's another way of doing it. It has advantages and disadvantages, I think. And in my case, until this year, I did everything. So all the program lines I thought of, and I created and it helped me to have these directions and to find a balance between all the programs. It's really, and that's, I think you can all agree, it's really a puzzle. It's a puzzle, not 2 dimensions, but I think 10 dimensions, because there's so many things you have to consider. I mean, artistic considerations, quality considerations, variations, financial, because I mean, you can think of anything, but it has to be paid, and you cannot spend everything on one thing. So all these things, also audience, you have to think about. Of course, you cannot do only things that you like, but the audience does not. But the other way is equally true. You cannot just do things that, oh, I think the audience would like this. This is also like a give and take game. And all these puzzles, and these kinds of puzzles I like, and also the logistic puzzle, of course. I have we started with a festival software system. There's not one ideal system, but we looked and we found one which is sort of ideal, and had to, you know, tune it and you know, adapt it in a way that I can use it. But also seeing, I need to see it in front of me as a schedule, to see, okay, if I do this, then the next thing can be on that side at that time. So the logistic puzzle is another one. How it is organized, that's another part of your question, is it's officially organized. It's a board, and the board is formally responsible for the festival. We are going to change that, by the way, but that is something for the future. The board is formally responsible, but they don't do anything. It's like they're responsible, they don't. So they delegate it. To a team, and the team actually does organize the festival. And within the team, there's the board of the 2 directors, one financial or business director and one artistic. And we do it with the 2 of us, and it's very individual. I mean, personal, if you like to work like that. But I really love working together with one other person. It's like a tandem. But that's personal, like I said. And together we are the head of the team. And then there's all kinds of members of the team. Some of them a full year, and others they start halfway the year. So there's the production, there's the marketing, there's the one that coordinates the volunteers, there's the one that makes sure that everyone has something to eat, and go on and on. And they form also little teams by themselves, because everything is so complex, as we are doing everything outside. So you have to really be aware that the park is beautiful, but it has nothing. No water, no electricity, no roofs, nothing. It's just beautiful. So we have to really create it ourselves. So that takes a lot of effort from the team as well.
Yeah, I totally recognize what you say. It's the same for us, obviously, with some help, because we have some close venues, some churches and a theater. But yeah, that's it. You have to build up everything, and you need a lot of people from each kind of sector to build up the program, and so it's quite a complex organization at the end. But I would like to get back to another thing that you said, that is getting artistic decisions at the end is quite complex. In some way, I think that the curators had a sort of taste of what does it mean making their decisions. Maybe they can tell us. It's a matter of them. But you mentioned some conditions, so I ask you, when you have to make your program, your puzzle, and how do you build your puzzle, and has your puzzle at the end a picture?
A picture? What do you mean?
I mean, when we make a puzzle, it's in order to get together pieces to see then one picture.
Yeah.
So has your pencil a picture, and how can you reach your picture?
Yes, of course, there's a picture, but it's an abstract picture. Of course, I must. There are a few things. First of all, and also maybe that's personal, but I think it's very important. I really believe that being an artistic director is really an artistic process. It's much more than just, I sometimes compare it with you have this drawings which you can fill in the colors, but it's a pre-made drawing. That's boring. I mean, you still can have decide, oh, I want to fill it with red or green or whatever, but it's sort of prefab. What was I going to say? One thing which is, I think, very important, and that has to do with this artistic part, is it is also an intuitive process. You have to have sort of a gut feeling, or an antenna for things that are interesting. That's my dog. So this is one part of the process, but it's not enough, because then if you just follow your instincts, it will be a mess, I think, in the end. So I think it's a part which is important, but it's like inspiration or things that you need, but that can't be everywhere. Then I think, and it's really up to everyone themselves, is create. I'm not even talking, which is actually also important to mention. The festival has, of course, a vision on how we see things, and a mission to what we really want to achieve. And this is also a thing you have to take into consideration when you are deciding or creating structures or making more multi-year decisions. If you want to say, okay, for instance, our mission is to keep, or to show how alive classical music is and how alive it can be, and any way you can do it. And from that, it's very logical that we create an expedition zone or a family zone, because it all adds to this mission, because it keeps it alive. You have all kinds of stuff going on. Anyway, back to the question. So what is really helpful, at least for me, is when you start programming, is to have some kind of a macro structure. In which you decide, I want to have the program consists of these elements. Like I said, I already explained the elements the festival has, but it doesn't have to be your elements. It can be anything. It's just that I feel that this is really connected to the mission we have. So I like to have a broad structure which has everything in it. But there are many festivals that are concentrated on just one aspect, and within that they create subsections. So it can be anything, and it's really depending on what the festival is about, or what your the site which you are programming is about. So this is like the boundaries, and within that you create a substructure which helps you make decisions. So if you have decided, okay, these and these and these elements will be part of the program, then you start thinking about filling those sections up. And then, of course, you can say, okay, I want for each section one really big thing and some smaller things that could be, or I want to have them all equal. Those are decisions you can make yourself. But it's like building stones which help you get focused on what you need to make a decision. One aspect, and this is really, I think we all will experience it earlier or later, is that as soon as people know that you are in a position to make decisions, you will be flooded with offerings and mails of people that want to come. My experiences, yeah, it can usually it's you have to do your own work. You have to research, you have to look, you have to keep your eyes and ears open, you have to talk to people, you have to visit places. And all this helps you to create also this experience, but also this intuitiveness. From that, it's like you have a big, thing of collection of things you can choose from. And and now the puzzle starts, and you have all these pieces of puzzle, and you say, oh, this will fit or this will not, I throw this away. And this is actually, if you like it, it's a really fun game. But it really starts with deciding on a basic structure which helps you, build up the whole thing. You can just that I think that's really important to keep focus. Otherwise, you'll be lost, and it will be very. The danger is that it will be very imbalanced. Otherwise.
I really like your answer, because the vision that comes out is how artistic direction is composing at the end. It's a meta composition in which you don't make the single pieces, but you build up the meta meanings of all the pieces together. And I really like this point of view, because I mean, you're a musician. I told I come from theater, so two different fields of performing arts, but the approach is quite similar. That considering it's very important, and you don't choose one performance only because of that, but also because of this performance inside the program.
Both, of course, because you have to like the performance and you are inspired. Oh, I want this, but it's never just that, because that's true.
They are both. I don't know, guys, you have anything you would like to ask or to say also in relation of the experience you are making with Mittelyoung, to find some connections.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
Because until now we talked about the artistic part and the intuition, so like pulse that comes from you and your preparation, your own research. But what about the stimuli that you get from the outside? I mean, how much does the feedback from the audience affects your decision? Because of course you need to consider them. And how do they work, and how do you manage the feedback and obviously the income of the audience, because you need to keep track of increasing or decreasing. So
it's an excellent question, because obviously the audience is a very big part of the event or the concert or anything you create. Because to my opinion, it's more philosophical approach that a musical work or composition or an event or a festival, it's not complete when the audience is not part of the whole cycle of the whole thing. So your question is really very relevant. This is, of course, the audience does not exist. They're all individuals with their own opinion, but there are general things you can derive from a few things. For instance, and this is still very complex for me as well, is I think something is really, really good or interesting or whatever, and no tickets are sold because people don't recognize it. This can be because of a lot of things. It can also be the way you tell the story or other things. Also, this is something this is a mistake I always make. I also make, but the combination of things that you have to consider, that there are all sorts of reasons why people how they react to a certain program. Of course, there are more ways of finding out what your audience likes or dislikes. We do polls, we ask people, we talk to people. And of course, we are there. I'm usually there, and you try to sense what how the reactions are, if you can. And I think it's, for me, it's not a really conscious thing, because that's very dangerous. If you start thinking, like I said, the audience is very made of many individuals. If you start thinking in a way, at least for me, it's hard. I know other programmers are very excellent at that. Especially pop programmers are thinking in a very different way. But for me, it's very dangerous to start to have the audience as a starting point, because it's you have to have an anchor somewhere. And the anchor is, of course, usually yourself, or your background, your education, and things that you find important. And from that, you relate to the audience. So you use your anchor as a starting point, and then you look at what happens with the audience. And if you notice that you're really off what you expected, that means that you have to reconsider next time. Okay, what did I do wrong, or what? And it can be the choice of program, but it can also be, like I said, the way you present it, or a combination of many factors. And you have to think of why is there is the difference between what I expected and what's really happened. And usually it's not that black and white, but it's a continuous process of learning to know your audiences and to react on that the next time you adapt, but always true to yourself. But you cannot, because if you only think of the audience, you will lose a lot of other things, because you have this vision, you have this structure, and you have a mission. You want to introduce things, or you find it very important that some artists are presented, and that doesn't not necessarily mean that people will understand it immediately. So there are all kinds of factors which you take into consideration. And one last thing, I do think that it's also a matter of give and take. You want your audience to be happy with, to have happy, what's happiness, but you want some impact. They want to, I think that's the end goal. You want them to be touched in a way. I mean, not just that can be, in a positive, or usually in a positive way, but in a way that really something happens with them. They are touched in a way, and of course this this is an important task you can set for yourself, and it's a dialogue with your audience. You give them something, you ask something, and you try to be. It is a living thing. So hopefully I answered your question. It's not very easy to say, okay, I do this and that. It's a search in a way.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted your personal opinion about what is your relationship with the audience?
Audience. Well, I think the audience is extremely important, but they're not the boss.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's the relation between what we do and the people which we do with, whom we do with. Yeah, sorry for my English in this passage. But I totally agree. For example, when I write to Mittelfest, the fact of Mittelfest has a topic every year, because it's a tradition of Mittelfest. It's not my decision. Mm-hmm. For me, I do remember the first time they asked me, okay, find a topic for the next year in 2 weeks. I really do remember this moment. I was appointed on October, and on November, they needed to have the topic immediately. And I said, okay, how can I find the topic right now? And at the end, I said, what's relevant for me? But it's not a question of thinking about yourself. It's a question, what is relevant for me that I can share with the others? That's the point, and I totally agree with you. This relation, this kind of connection, and this is why performing arts is something about community. And yeah, community is making gifts together. Giving something, getting something. No, I really don't like. Yeah, I really do like what you said. Yeah. Do you somebody has other questions of every kind of core considerations? It doesn't matter.
Hi.
Hello. Thank you for your speech. It was very interesting. I never heard about this festival, and like I would like to visit that. It's very interesting, and I would like to know which cultural events or concerts or performances you personally like to visit in Netherlands, and especially in area Amsterdam. Like for sure your festival, concert of your festival, but maybe some.
Yes. Well, I must, which has not been mentioned yet, since 2020, I'm not just the artistic director of Oranjewoud, but I'm also a programmer of venues called SPOT in Groningen, which is not very far from here. And this venue programs a lot of things, not just classical music, but also pop music, theater, dance, cabaret. Actually, all the performing arts are there. And so we have a team of 6 programmers, 2 of which are for classical music. There the programming there is something. This is also for me a learning point, that a festival audience is really different from a venue audience, because people that come and go to a concert in a venue, that's their evening usually, and that's the main reason for going, and so they're more careful, and they don't take as much risks, because it's a wrong decision will ruin their evening. So and as a programmer, you have to take that into consideration. At least that's what I'm learning. And so it's really different from a festival, because there you can take more risk as a programmer. You should take more risk, because I think a festival is really something, has this goal of creating opportunities both for artists and for audiences. But going back to your question, because you asked what concerts I would like, there are so many great things. I don't know if you're asking it for yourself because you're planning to visit Amsterdam, but
yes, like from 1st of April till 10th.
Okay, I will see, and I have to check the calendar what's happening. But you're never well, there are several. If you're looking for music there, and I don't know what kind of music you prefer, if it's classical or not. No, all kinds of. But the most important classical venues are the Concertgebouw and Muziekgebouw aan het IJ. Muziekgebouw aan het IJ is more modern, adventurous, and that's really great hall. The Concertgebouw is more traditional. It's they have all kinds of things, but that's really the temple of traditional classical music. But there are also other venues, many venues for other genres, like Paradiso is really important pop venue, which you can visit. And I don't know even all the venues, but there are many in the Netherlands. So this is just music, because there are also theater. The big opera house, it's called I always know it as the Stopera, but it's the opera house in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. We don't have many opera houses in Holland. We have only one really, and the rest is traveling. So this is, but those are, crazy expensive tickets usually. So I don't know. It really depends on what you're looking for and what your taste and what you want to hear, and what kind of genre or discipline you're looking for.
Yeah, but I'm curious about yourself.
Okay, what I would do? Oh my God. Yeah, it's not. It's actually, I like anything that's really that where I can discover new things, or even if they are already discovered by many other people, and it's for me new, but the others think like, oh, is this new for you? And well, so yeah, it's not one specific thing. I should if I want to I need to look into what's there and then and more furthermore is I'm also part of a committee which has to several committees actually that has to listen to all kinds of performances happening. So it's also part of my job. I don't know if this answered your question. It's really hard to to give a very distinct answer.
Yeah, it's a very complex kind of question.
Yeah,
To answer,
like, no.
yeah, it's very, because at the end, yeah, it's I don't know now. Yeah, just to have a very free conversation. But now that I'm waiting for the second baby, so I'm at home and I cannot travel and I cannot go to theater in the evening because I have to be at home.
Yeah,
It's what I understand that, yeah, we go to the theater, to the concert for job, and at the end I am quite became an addicted of theater. I really need it. So
you'll miss it
it's
now.
not relevant what I will see, it's relevant that I see.
Yeah, true. That's absolutely true. When I also remember, maybe you have the same, all of you. This, of course, there was this Corona period where a lot of things, or actually nothing happened, and at some point things started to happen again, and you could actually go to a concert or a theater or whatever, and it felt so rewarding and also very special, because before that it's of course it's always special, but it was more common, and then you realize what a richness and what a pleasure you can get from just going there and seeing and hearing stuff, and it's happening actually there, not on a flat screen, and and that's really different, and it made me aware how important the live, I think I'm not the only one, but how important the live things are. Although I do think that it's also an interesting area, and we have to learn a lot, is how digital or technologies can reach more people, but in a way, like I said before, that really impacts the audience, and not, to my experience, seeing a concert streaming on the screen is really not impactful, because there's so many layers in between that it doesn't reach me as much. So I'm curious to find out if there are ways of doing that without losing the impact. That's a question. It's I don't have the answer, but it's probably a very relevant question in today's society where technology is omnipresent, and it has great opportunities, because the digital world is very, very huge, and there are only a few hundred people that fit in the theater. So it's an interesting thought of how can we enlarge our fields by not just doing the live stuff, but also in other ways. But it's a whole new area.
No, in this sense, my feeling is this, that new technologies can enter in theater. I mean, theater in performing arts in general. It's quite easy, but performing arts cannot enter in new technologies.
No, well, not in a way that we're used to. I think I really strongly believe that we need a new art form that really is built from the technology itself, and not trying to use things that are centuries old and squeeze it in something which is never meant for that.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like experiences like Strijbos and Rijswijk compositions that we are going to have also in next Mittelfest, as you know, and we already had, and you have new technologies in the performance.
Yeah, true. Yeah, we use it as a tool
of the performance. Yeah.
We use it as a tool, and then it's but yeah, true. Yeah.
So I think it's absolutely possible in this sense that live experience can use all the means that we have for the live experience, and every day we use mobiles and new technologies. It's so it's easy to have new technologies in performing arts because
That's
performing
true.
arts are leaving us and no more.
But still, I mean, when you, I don't know if you ever see a Netflix movie or something else, and most of them are bad, but some of them are good. But this is meant for screen. So that's why it works, I think. People can watch it's not the same as going to a movie theater, but still, there's still a lot of impact left when you see a movie on television or on screen. But that's because it's a good fit. But what we do, if we are going to a theater or a concert or any live performance, there's so many other things happening which you cannot translate into a digital experience, that you lose the smell, or the sound of your neighbor, of the air that floats in one of the things that we noticed, of course, in Oranjewoud is nature is such a big part of the experience. This is really, we didn't even try to translate it into a digital experience, because it's impossible. It's nature. You cannot. It's not bits and it's not digital. It's analog. It's super analog. So it's like an mission impossible to create something digital from something that's analog. Those are two different worlds, really.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
But we can put digital in analog. That's
exciting, because then you get a very interesting. True, absolutely. Yeah. Actually, you can do that. True. Schrijversreiswerk is a good example of using new technologies inside in the site and mixing those together.
Yeah. So, are there other question that you want to do? It's okay. Yep. We have few minutes.
Thank you, Sarah. Before you talked about the need to do your own research to build, to gain yourself the pieces that will then form the whole puzzle. And I wanted to ask you if you have some advice for these little curatores about how to improve our research. I mean, what do you have some resentments in your life about something that you didn't study or you didn't do or experience that now would be something that could become really useful for your decision-making process?
I made and still make mistakes, and so it's a continuous thing, and I think that's fine, because you learn as you go. And I will answer your question, but there's another thing I really want to tell, which I forgot, and which is also interesting to think about. But the research part is actually, it starts by being curious yourself, and to some eagerness to get to know things. But it's also a practical thing of actually going. And if you have a creative mind, you will only need a little bit as nutrition for your mind to start, things up in your as a creative process. And the more you see and the more you are aware of things, the more food and nutrition your mind has to create stuff. And it builds up. It's something you have to develop. There are many ways of doing research apart from actually going. I think that's the most important, but also keeping your eyes open and reading stuff and thinking, and also going to things that you probably wouldn't go in the first place, just because all of us are full of inhibitions and prejudice things, and in order to be really creative, you have to be a very open person, and accept anything. Doesn't mean that you have to like everything. It's just that it adds to your ability to and also your focus, what you really find yourself personally important and what you want to do. because in the end, it's also it's a really personal thing. Being a curator, it has, because then it's real. If it's just and it's coming back to your previous question about the audience, if it's just a formula and anyone can do it, it's not real, it's not authentic. And so you are the authentic part of it. And everything you do on research and everything you do on developing yourself will add to that. And the thing I wanted to add, and I forgot about, is one thing that is also, I think, very interesting, and that makes me most energetic, is actually creating, I did mention it, but then not in this way, creating new things with artists. So we give assignments for doing things, and the way you can do it is there are very many ways to do it. But what I really like is, of course, knowing who you're asking, but it really is the art of that person. And what you do is you help the process, and you have conversations, and you help, when they're stuck, you have a talk and you come up with ideas, and they can, continue their work. And in the end, it's their thing. And the only thing you did is start it and keep it moving. And then, it's a very, you're not your main character. You are the one that helps the main character. And if you have to like that, but I feel that's a really very rewarding experience to be able and to keep the process developing and going somewhere, especially when you do it with a lot of artists. You don't have to do the work. You're just there to listen and to keep them going. And this is one aspect of curatorship which I like very much, because it's really something that's unique for your venue or site or festival or whatever. Anyone can book anyone. There are many artists in there, and it's important, but the things you create with the artist, that's unique.
Yeah, no, it's like that.
Yeah.
In year by year, you have to discover again and again. Yeah,
but it's also, if you have a good click with the artist, it's also it's a very rewarding experience seeing developing something and being able to help them, and you're helping them in a big way because you have a site, you give them an opportunity in the first place, and in the end there's a presentation, etc. And I like that, but okay, that's really up to you if you want to do that.
Okay, Bianca.
Thank you. Good questions. All good questions, by the way.
Yeah, very good question. So, guys, we had an hour and a quarter, a little bit more that it was expected, but I'm very happy about that. So it means that we had a good connection with Yoram. What I would like to say in order to, because we need to close this moment, is that obviously, if you are around Netherlands, not only in April, but maybe at the end of May, like me, please go to Oranjewoud Festival from the 26th to the 29th of May. And will you come, Yoram, for Tonzetter in Mittelfest, or maybe not? Maybe you are
in July, you mean, or in May?
July? Yeah. No, in July.
May,
July.
Yeah, right. I'm not sure yet. I know Primo, my son, will be there for sure, because he's doing the concerts. I don't know yet. I'm going to Canada in early July. So maybe. Okay. I liked it very much being there, and it's also exciting to be there, seeing Toonzetters, of course, the project which I also helped build. So maybe I will keep it for sure.
So in case we will find them you will find them there at the end of July, because the concert is in the second week, during the second weekend, so it's very in the end. And yeah, about Mittelyoung, we will give you some news about what comes out. Really.
So may I ask a question myself before we? So what I understand, you all of you. I don't see all of you because I see some names and some faces, but all of you are doing a part of Mittelyoung's program as a curator. Am I correct? Or
yeah, all of them. They are all curators of Mittelyoung program.
That's
all
wonderful.
of them together.
Yeah.
And they are not all. Today they are just a part, because the group is, I don't know, 20 people.
My God! And so that is I never did this, so it's for me it's like okay, because I forgot to mention that from the family zone I have 2 curators, which I'm very happy of because they're very good, and this is something that I giving away a big section is something I have to really trust the people that do it. But in this way, of course, there's a completely different thing with Mittelyoung. So how do you, because all of you have different ideas and experiences and backgrounds. So how do you collaborate, all of you together, or do you collaborate? Maybe you say, I don't care about you. I do my stuff and you do your stuff. How does that work?
We have a very complex system. Now, consider, Yoram, that the committee is in the first moment, in the first part of the selection, was divided in 4 areas: theater, music, dance, and circus.
Yeah.
So it was easier to have discussions. And they discussed. They make propositions. They made ideas
together
and
in groups.
In groups, in the small groups, and then all together at the end. And I worked as a referee, making them votes.
Okay.
We used this sort of democratic method of voting, discussing and voting.
Yeah. Wow. This is so interesting. For me, it's a completely new way of approaching that. But again, it's like a community artwork in that way. Say you're a community of curators, and creating something together is really exciting.
But the most exciting part will be in Cividale during Mittelyoung, because until now we had to work on Zoom, not live, because we live in different places, different towns, and so in that moment we will be all together, and they will really discuss together in live.
And when is that? In May?
From the 18th to the 21st of May. It's very close to you.
Yes, and I have another festival in Groningen, which is from 11th to 20th May. And actually, this is also a thing. The thing that it's not my idea, and we were asked to do it. But that's an example of things that is very important, or a lesson how not to do it. You always, in any structure you choose, you need to have a very clear idea from who is going to take. What's the system going to be? Who is going to make the final decisions? So in your case, it's clear. You made a system, and there's an outcome, and that's exciting. That's very good. But it's very important to have this structure.
No, the structure is very useful, but sometimes it's always complex too. Yeah.
But that's the fun of it, right?
Yeah, that is so. Okay. I'm very surprised that in general we stay in 1 hour, that I have to leave you all now, and I have to end because I need to go to get my son
at
school. Yes. So I need to really to leave.
Yeah.
But your question were very interesting, Yoram. Very interesting.
And well,
Yeah.
thank you all for being here and listening to all the stuff I I shared, and I really hope you have a good time creating Mittelyoung. And yeah, good luck with that.
Thank you very much. Everybody can say thank you also, opening microphones.
Thank you.
Forbidden.
You're welcome. You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
It was fun, really. Good.
For me too. See you guys.